According to OECD's Development Assistance Committee, evaluation is a systematic and objective assessment of an ongoing or completed project, program, or policy, its design, implementation, and results. The aim is to determine the relevance and fulfillment of objectives, development efficiency, effectiveness, impact, and sustainability. An evaluation should provide information that is credible and useful, enabling the incorporation of lessons learned into the decision-making process of both recipient and donors. Evaluation is also an exercise designed with an intention of determining the contribution or attribution of a given intervention to the overall goals that it has been designed and implemented to achieve. Therefore, the theory of change of the intervention in question is central when it comes to the evaluation. An evaluation answers questions like: what did the program do and achieve? What difference did it make and for whom? What lessons did we learn? The Development Assistance Committee, DAC in short, of the OECD, has developed a glossary on RBM terms that we have used several times in this course. The DAC evaluation criteria are generally accepted as the standard criteria to be used for evaluations. The 5 criteria are relevance, that is, the extent to which an intervention addresses the needs of the target group. In other words, how relevant was it to initiate the intervention? Efficiency focuses on how much did we get out of the money. It might inform us as to whether we could have gotten more output out of the same resources. Effectiveness looks at the extent to which an intervention has met its objectives, and also on how effectively the intervention transformed activities into outputs and outcomes. Impact focuses on the extent to which the intervention has succeeded in addressing the initial problem, and it tells us to what degree the intervention has had a long-term impact. Finally, sustainability looks at the continued benefits beyond the intervention's life cycle. In other words, how much impact is sustained after the withdrawal of project funds. It shall be noted that even though the DAC criteria are often used, this doesn't mean that other criteria cannot be used, and that some of the DAC criteria cannot be omitted. The criteria shall be seen as pointers or headings under which specific evaluation questions should be developed. So, why do we want to invest time and money in evaluating our development interventions? Well, most evaluations serve 2 main purposes. One is knowledge creation and learning to improve design and effectiveness of an ongoing or future development intervention. And secondly, accountability and communication to show what has come out of investing money in a development intervention and gaining public support. In specific terms, evaluations are carried out to give feedback on the performance of interventions, to provide accountability to stakeholders, for learning and documenting good practices, to set or verify priorities and identify new interventions for the future, and finally, as a donor requirement for further support. Another way of looking at the main purposes of evaluations is shown in this table. From a strategic angle, evaluations can inform us whether we are doing the right things. Is our intervention justified? And is our theory of change right? From an organizational angle, evaluations can inform us as to whether we are doing things right. Are we effective and efficient in our way of transforming inputs to outputs, outcomes, and impacts? And finally, from a learning perspective, evaluations can help us learn both from our successes and from our mistakes. It can point to whether there are alternative, better ways of achieving our goals and create learning for future interventions. So, when is the right time to evaluate a development intervention? Well, evaluations may be prospective, focusing on what ought to happen and why, or retrospective, focusing on what actually happened and why. They can be performed either at the beginning, in the middle, at the end, or even sometime after the end of an intervention, looking for long-term impact. Some donors, like for instance Danita, do both prospective, midterm, and retrospective evaluations at the end. Then the question is, who is best placed to undertake an evaluation? Well, basically, there are two main types of evaluations. Internal evaluations, where the implementing organization sponsors, conducts, and controls the evaluation. And then there's external evaluations, where someone beyond an intervention acts as the evaluator and controls the evaluation. You can also design and undertake more participatory evaluations, where more stakeholders are involved in formulating the evaluation and sometimes also in doing the evaluation. The main advantage of having an external evaluator is that they can be more objective in assessing and formulating recommendations. The main disadvantage is that an external evaluator might not know the organization so well. They might be unfamiliar with various constraints and the local political, cultural, and economic environment. And then finally, it is almost always more costly. When it comes to designing an evaluation, there are some recommended steps. First, you have to determine the major evaluation issue or evaluation focus. What are the main issues that you want to learn about through the evaluation? After that, you can start deciding on the evaluation approach: who, when, and how. When the overall frame is decided upon, you can start formulating specific evaluation questions. Remember to revisit the theory of change of the intervention when you formulate the evaluation questions. If relevant indicators on output, outcome, and impact levels have been formulated for the program, you might want to specify which of these indicators you want to be evaluated. The above steps will enable you to specify the appropriate data sources and collection methods. Then, when data has been collected, they will have to be analyzed, and therefore specifying the data analysis strategies is an important part of the evaluation design. Finally, it will be useful for you to think about how the outcome of the evaluation is to be disseminated. In what form and to whom? Do you need to organize a workshop, or is it sufficient to put it on a website or send it out on an email? Remember that even if you decide to undertake an external evaluation, you still have to decide on the evaluation focus and the main evaluation questions to be sent out together with the terms of reference for the evaluation. The outcome of an evaluation design could be a matrix like this one, but it could also be in any other form that you find relevant. Remember that when it comes to data collection methods, you will often want to combine various methods, such as document review, interviews, focus group discussions, observations, etc. Please also remember that the cost of the evaluation should be reasonable compared to the total budget of the development intervention. Again, stick to need to know. So, it's time for the last exercise, focusing on the evaluation. We recommend that you use the same project or program that you used for the other assignments. Now, first, determine the main evaluation focus and suggest important evaluation questions. Feel free to use one or several of the DAC evaluation criteria. Secondly, suggest data collection methods for all or some of these questions. And thirdly, reflect upon who, when, and how the evaluation should be carried out, and how the results of the evaluation should be used. Remember, you can always pause the PowerPoint video while you're doing your exercise. Welcome back from this last exercise. Before we finish the last submodule of the RBM course, there are a few key points that we want you to remember about evaluation. First, evaluations serve two main purposes: learning and documentation. It is important to think about how the learning shall be re-injected into the organization. In the case of prospective or midterm evaluations, managers shall be ready to adjust the theory of change if need be. Secondly, make sure when you make an evaluation design that you're asking the right questions and that the answers can and will be used. And finally, it can prove useful to think about how a given development intervention will be evaluated already at the planning stage. Asking yourself the question, how will I determine whether the intervention has been a success, often fosters a lively and fruitful debate among key stakeholders. We will end this last module on indicators, monitoring, and evaluation with a short quiz, and after that, the last episode of our common case on road accidents in Tanzania. Thank you for staying patiently with us.